So, I don't want to seem one-sided at all. So I should go over this. And this is important stuff that everybody should know. Lest they remain ethnocentric or too boastful, let's say. So, do the 20 inventions, top 20 inventions of how Islam changed the world, how Islamic inventors changed the world, in these Islamic inventions that are indispensable, which by the end of this, at least this might span over a couple videos, you'll see it's not like, well, that'll be at the end. It was this thing that it's handed out, the top 20 inventions, how Islamic inventions changed the world. The story goes back to an Arab named Khalid when he was tending his goats in southern Ethiopia, and he noticed the animals were livelier by eating a certain berry. Boiled the berries and made the first coffee. Just went to Ethiopia and Yemen, so they could stay awake all night and day to pray on occasions. By the late 15th century, in Mecca, Turkey, went around the world. Basically sensation overnight. I don't have to read all of these things to you know about coffee. Unfortunately, he was a Christian monk. So, oops. I'll just skip down to that guy. I'm not going to include that one. Speed 19, because that's ridiculous. Chess. A form of chess was played in ancient India, but the game was developed into what we know today in Persia. From there it spread westward to Europe, and it was introduced by the Moors in Spain in the 10th century, eastward as far as Japan. The word rook comes from Persian rook, means chariot. Unfortunately, the Muslims banned chess, so I don't know how they can have this on here. And it dates back to the 6th century, and the Europeans were playing it in Europe. They'd be kind of surprised. Let's mention Persia was Zoroastrian. Oops on that one. And it wouldn't decline in being Zoroastrian until hundreds of years after the Muslim conquest. So, hey, maybe the Roman Catholics can credit everything the Hindus do to Roman Catholicism, right? No. Flying 1,000 years before the Wright brothers, a Muslim poet, astronomer, musician, engineer named Abbas ibn Firnas made several attempts to construct a flying machine. Yeah, but he didn't do it. He didn't discover gravity. No. I mean, I could read 3,000 years ago in China, they did the exact same thing this dude's talking about under Emperor Kuo Yang. Not to mention all the stuff that went down in Alexandria. Oh, this is hilarious. Bathing. Washing and bathing are religious requirements for Muslims. You know that dude, John the Baptist? Oh, wait, oops. Which is perhaps why they perfected the recipe for soap. No, they didn't, which we still use today. The ancient Egyptians had soap of a kind, as did the Romans, who used it more as a pomade, but it was the Arabs who combined vegetable oils with sodium hydroxide and aromatics such as thyme oil One of the Crusaders' most striking characteristics Arab nostrils was that they did not wash. Shampoo was introduced into England by Muslims who had opened Muhammad's Indian vapor baths on Brighton seafront in 1759. No, it was the Romans had baths. They bathed all the time. It was the climate that they were living in. If you fell into the water, you died of hypothermia. I mean, go to Rome. You could still see all the there's a place in England called Bath, because of the hot springs that were there. No, I don't know where to get this from. Distillation. Hey, you created a hard liquor. Way to take credit for this. Unfortunately, the Indus River Valley civilization did that before you, and they were one of the first civilizations, 3000 BC. Oops. Crankshaft. A device which translates rotary into linear motion and central. What is this? Is this a picture of an ancient Chinese of an ancient Chinese crankshaft made out of metal that we still have today? Where's yours? Quilting? Quilting. Quilting. Again, I just refer people to China. Oh gosh. Architecture. The pointed arch was so characteristic of Gothic Europe's cathedrals. The innovation borrowed from Islamic architecture. It was much stronger than the rounded arch used by the Romans and Normans, thus allowing building of bigger and higher, more complex, grander buildings. Other borrowings from Muslim genius include ribbed vaulting, rose windows, dome building techniques. Wait, the Pantheon? The Pantheon, dome building technique. Get out of here. Europe's castles were also adapted to copy the Islamic worlds with arrow slits, battlements, barbarian parapets, square towers to keep. No, the Romans did everyone. Why is it that the 300 years before Islam came on the scene, you see, or at least 200 years before Islam came on the scene, you see Byzantine architecture, and 200 years after Islam came on the scene, you see Byzantine. It's indistinguishable. The Byzantines from the early Muslims, their architecture is the same. Were they borrowing techniques? In most of their stuff, oh wow, hey, you know the Umayyad Masjid? That kind of looks like a church. Oh wait, it was a church. Oh wait, all the early mosques were churches. Oops on that one too. At least the Christians, and as for this arched vault, where's this arched vault thing? The pointed characteristics of European Gothic cathedrals, innovation of much borrowed from the Islamic architecture. Arched vault. You know, instead of going like this, you go like that. The Assyrians had that, so mouth's too dry, I can't do raspberries and people. There it is. So the Assyrians existed before you. Surgical instruments, ancient Greece, China, Rome, they had all that crap. I mean, no. The windmill, no, didn't invent that. Invented in 634 for a Persian caliph. It was used to grind corn and draw up water for irrigation. Vast deserts of Arabia. Seasonal streams. Blah, 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 blah. No, you didn't invent that. No. The fountain pen. Wow, great civilization when they put the fountain pen on there. Invented for the Sultan in 953. So his hands would not stain his clothes and blah blah blah. This article right here that I found says it begins with a quill. And it first began in 1656. And it wasn't really completed until 1809 that they could actually get it working. Oh, there's a little note down here. Those who claim the fountain pen was invented in AD 953 by a Muslim need to produce both the evidence of a fountain pen and evidence of the type of ink that was used, so as not to clog or smear. You know, I invented the airplane 6,000 years ago. Prove me wrong. Prove that I didn't invent the airplane 6,000 years ago. A system of numbering. Unfortunately, that comes from the Hindus. We call them Arabic numerals. They call them Hindu numerals. Sorry, getting long in here. 3-course meal. Again, unfortunately, Romans. 43 AD. Check that one. Carpets. What was Cleopatra rolled up in to sneak her out of Egypt? What could Romans pay their taxes with? Was it carpets? I think it was. Where did Muslims get everything they had? Was it carpets? No. No. The modern check. Persians and Romans again. Sorry about that. And as we know it today, I mean, the Chinese had that. As we know it today, it actually started, you know, I should do a whole video on that. How our banking system evolved. The earth being round. The 9th century Muslim scholars took it for granted that the earth was a sphere. Proof, Ibn Hazm, particular spot near the 500 years before the realization drawn by Galileo. Unfortunately, people knew this from ancient times, primordial times. I mean, it's not primordial, it's just ancient. You can name a number of Christian bishops that write about this, but let's go before that. Pythagoras, Aristotle, and Hipparchus. People, when you sail, you go over the horizon. The Romans and Greeks lived on the Mediterranean. Sorry. Gunpowder. So the Chinese invented saltpeter gunpowder. Okay. Used it for fireworks. The Arabs worked out. No, I actually saw a thing on this on the History Channel about the fire torch and the Chinese creating this. So too bad. It was the Muslims that turned it into weapons and rockets and guns and terrified the Crusaders. Wow, you're taking credit for something that has been detrimental to mankind for what you're claiming it was from Crusader times for the last 1,000 years. You're really taking credit for that. You know, well, I'd love to accredit mass slaughter and bloodshed to you. I don't need to give you the gun to prove that. Moving on. Gardens. Medieval Europe had a kitchen with herb gardens, but it was the Arabs who developed the idea of a garden. I just want you to keep in mind the hanging gardens of Babylon, Persia. I mean, well, Babylon was separate, but Persia also had that, and so did Rome. Probably should pick this up in number 2, because gardens has to stretch both ways. Because gardens. You're telling this to Christians? To Christians. Nebuchadnezzar, people. Cyrus the Great, Persians with all of their gardens and stuff. That was before Islam. I'll get to that next time.